What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and boy, do I have a comic book review for you. We're talking about Berserker #1 from Keanu Reeves. I guess he was kind of did the storyboard. His idea, written by Matt Kindt, illustrated by Ron Garney, and oh boy, this is quite the exciting comic book. Not just because I believe this is the best-selling comic in like 6 or 7 years. I think since Star Wars #1 in 2015. Which I believe shipped over a million copies due to be in some loot crates. There was a little finagling to get over that 1 million comic ship mark. But Berserker from Boom Studios shipped, I believe, 635,000 plus issues for issue #1. Obviously, a lot of excitement was generated up by their Kickstarter campaign, and we're finally getting the story, and it does not disappoint. This is like a 4.5 star comic, beautifully rendered. When I say beautiful, I mean beautifully violent. It is so violent. If you do not like extreme amounts of violence, gore, like if you watch the original RoboCop and it turns you off a little bit, you are probably not going to like this comic book because it goes there and goes past that. If you thought John Wick was a little too extreme, I don't think Berserker is going to be the comic book for you. But if you like extreme amounts of action, if you like toxic masculinity, if you like a comic book that will put some hair on your chest, maybe some hair on your balls, Berserker #1 is the comic book for you. And I was very excited when they announced the creative team. Matt Kindt is one of my favorite writers, and I'll tell you, besides him being one of my favorite writers, there's a good reason that he was a good choice for this. He wrote Ninja K back in the day. Not exactly the exact same thing, but a similar type character with extremely violent, very well educated in the martial arts and things like that, working for the government, but was still a little bit rogue. He also has recently been doing a comic book called Bang, where he is essentially taking classic action heroes, but there are amalgamations of them and throwing them in a story that's very well executed. And Ron Garney, you couldn't have picked a better artist. Boy, does he goes balls to the wall on this one. Ron Garney is one of the most visceral, like heart-pumping comic book artists in the industry as far as I'm concerned. He knows how to put some ink on page and get you excited and make the action flow. And this book is almost all action. So it's a highly recommend. And there's some story to it that's quite excellent. It kind of reminded me, although like the first half of it reminded me of Ninja K22 from Matt Kindt, the silent issue, where it's just Ninja K running through people. This is Keanu Reeves, I believe the character's name is B. They don't mention it in the comic book. I think the main character's name is B, just running through people. We're going to get to that. So before I get into the details of why I love this comic book so much, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, but you like comic book reviews, you like comic news, opinions, stuff like that, this is likely a channel for you. Hit the bell for notifications. After you subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this review. Thumbs down if you don't. Definitely want to know your thoughts on Berserker #1. Now let's get right into it because I am dying to show you some of these pages. Now, I'll talk initially about the art from Ron Garney. As I mentioned before, you couldn't have picked a better artist, contemporary artist that's working right now. Ron Garney probably doesn't get the love and kudos that he probably deserves for his work and his career within the comics industry, but the man can draw action. You needed somebody with bold line work, and he was the perfect person to illustrate this comic. And we'll get to the violent part because there's like a 20, maybe 20 plus pages of straight action in this thing, and Ron Garney absolutely knocks it out of the park. Obviously, this is the opening scene. Looks like it's kind of straight out of John Wick. Obviously, Keanu Reeves, while I believe he likely the story concept is his. I don't imagine he was doing the dialogue. I believe that was all Matt Kindt. But he's essentially starring in this comic book. That definitely lends a bit of credibility since he is, he is an action star. And you're going to see John Wick on steroids in Berserker #1. I absolutely love this opening scene. Like I said, it looks like it's right out of John Wick, and then it transitions into this mission. Very well done. Obviously, the color palette changes, and it's beautifully rendered. And we get right to this open. And it's quite clear from from the very beginning stages that there's something different about B. I think we heard in the solicitations that he might be a god, he might be immortal, something like that. But he is an agent of the government, and he kicks ass and it doesn't take names because he does not care. He just whoops everybody. So he's out there with the special forces, jumps out of the helicopter before the rest of the guys and just starts laying waste to everybody. It was a good intro, kind of get your heart pumping, ready for all this action. And this is just a little taste of how much blood you're going to see in this comic book. There's blood and gore everywhere within Berserker #1, and it's all Keanu Reeves' character here. Now, he takes some a little bit, and we'll get that part too, but he just lays waste. Just look at this violence. There's one scene, there's one set of scenes where he punches a dude in the abdomen, rips his own rib bone out, turns around and then stabs the guy's buddy in the neck with the guy's own rib bone. Absolutely fascinating. And then in the next page, or I think on the next page, he rips a man's arm off and starts beating him to death with it. This is what would John Wick do if you didn't let him use guns and knives? I think he would rip somebody's arm off and beat them to death with it. I think he would rip somebody's rib bone out because he's so adept at killing. And this guy is absolutely a killing machine. And all along, while this is happening, there's a conversation. And you think in the opening scene, a car pulls up and you think he's talking to whoever was in that car. That turns out not to be the case, but they're having a back and forth. And you can see that the narrator is trying to kind of influence B, kind of get him to open up because something happens on this mission where there's something different with his memory. It's quite clear that he doesn't remember everything. There are hazy moments, but during this mission, as they were monitoring his vital signs, some parts of his frontal lobe or something started activating, and he started acting different. And along the way, we find out he's there to get the president of I believe it's a South American country. And it turns out they say he's gone to the airport, so he commandeers a Humvee or some other type of fighting vehicle. I think he gets his nose shut off. He might have exploded a hand grenade in someone's chest while he was holding it. And he drives it. He hits this plane head on to stop it, and he finally finds the president. And they're telling him, "Hey, listen, it's time to stop. You need to take this one alive." And that's when we finally kind of get to see what's happening. He's having these memories. You can say he's seeing something. At one point, he sees this man's face. You assume it's a father or possibly his father. He also sees the face of a child, a young boy. You don't know if maybe that's him or maybe that's his son that perhaps he's lost, but he has got some motivation. Something has triggered him, and he absolutely beats this dude's face in, beats him to death, and then he's got like brain tissue on his hands and stuff when he's done with him. Spectacularly violent. That's the only way I can verbalize what you're going to see within that 20-plus pages of action. He annihilates everybody. But there is this underlying story that you're getting all along, that there's something wrong with his memory. He's certainly working for a government agency. And at this point, I'm assuming he's like Wolverine. He's kind of immortal, but he heals. That's why he's willing to charge, headlong into action and take bullets to the chest over and over and over. Because he can't be hurt, but he heals himself. He can't be hurt. He's missing his face here and all that noise. But that is not the case. Because once he gets back to the HQ, they start running all these tests on him. They cut part of his pinky off, and they start regrowing parts. So he does not heal, but he doesn't die either. So they're regenerating his parts, kind of putting him back together as he's remembering this conversation with this narrator that's talking. And you find out along the way that what he wants more than anything, he doesn't want to die. He's not suicidal. He just wants to be able to die. And that is why he has taken this deal. And we finally meet the narrator. It's this female scientist. And it's weird posturing. She's trying to play it like she's got the upper hand. I don't believe in gods. You're not a god. And he says, gods don't die. I don't die. I'm immortal. What the hell am I? I don't know what I am. And she's like, well, we don't know what you are either. But he's made this deal with this government agency within the United States. he's allowing them to do like experiments on him so they can grow what appears. So I believe they want to grow a clone army of him to be like their soldiers moving forward. And he's like, I don't care. Do whatever you want with me. Do whatever you got to do with my DNA. I just want to be able to die. And that is apparently what this scientist and the U.S. government has promised him. We will make it so you can die eventually. But this is really interesting. Just visceral, balls to the wall action. But you also get a really cool underlying story to it where you have a man that appears to be immortal. And all he wants is the key to not having to be alive anymore. He doesn't want to die, but he just wants to be able to die. Now, I will tell you this. If you like heart-thumping action, if you like extreme amounts of violence, gore, Berserker #1 is going to be right up your alley. This is like a double-sized comic book issue. It's over 40 pages. It might be upwards of like 50. And it reads like it's about 25. It is so fast-paced. Even though you get this wonderful underlying story and narrative where they're kind of, setting the tone, setting the table for this character and what he's all about and what they're going to do with him. But this thing it reads amazingly fast. This is a highly recommend. This would be like a highest recommend maybe if there was a little bit more meat to the story. But what story we do get is absolutely fantastic. Matt Kindt, Ron Garney take Keanu Reeves' vision for Berserker. They knock it out of the park. Boom Studios has a winner right here. If you know somebody that needs to put some hair on their chest, maybe needs their balls to drop, you need to get them a copy of Berserker #1 because this will absolutely put you in the toxic masculinity zone. This thing was fantastic. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll definitely be sticking around for issue #2. Definitely let me know what your thoughts on Berserker #1 and all that wonderful, beautiful violence that you get in this issue.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.